SOS! They're taking us! I hope that this is not just a cry for help, but that we can alert everyone who's going through this abduction process. Many abductees are placed under a hypnosis process, a type of memory suspension, so that there is no memory of these attacks when people are taken from their homes after the experiments and manipulations.
The information Leon was showing me was shocking. I finally started to understand the reason for some abductions on Earth, and I started to wonder if I would be one of those abductees, but would this still be happening today? In the midst of my internal questions, Leon continued to explain that the scientists of the Draco-Reptilian Great Coalition, aware of the arrival of a group of beings who had a very specialized ability in genetic engineering, had a meeting with the Senate of the Draco, defining that the first contacts be made with these people of Nibiru for a possible partnership. A part of the Draco Principality took the lead in this endeavor and sought this partnership, as they had direct contact with the representatives of this kingdom, as this principality had long ago helped them due to a fall in the protection of their planetary system and their exoplanet, giving them an apparatus that would give them the possibility to protect them. In addition, there were some reptilians and hybrids among these people. This apparatus had the ability to suck plasma from the dwarf stars and use it as energy to maintain the protective barriers, and as the Dracos were keen on this technology, they gave the apparatus, but at some point they would be charged something in return, as they are very strategic and always waiting for the right time to call in the favor, and that was the perfect time. These Nibiruans could certainly help you experiment with humanoids. They then advanced in their ships and headed towards the Herculeus system, which was already approaching. They got the support of the governor of Nibiru for the project, but only while the system was approaching the solar system and its elliptical trajectory in the quadrant. But the Nibiruans, who would later be called the Anunnaki by humanoids, wanted something more in this endeavor, and they didn't just want to return the aid, they wanted to have a part in this experiment. The Dracos offered them part of the creation and manipulation, so that a type of prison for their execs and traitors could be manifested in this region, and that they themselves would take care of this as jailers, so that they would never leave this planet, taking them to prison in these primate bodies, having the entire environment under their control. Little did they know that the Dracos were, once again, articulating greater things, for they knew that by incarnating in these primate bodies, the earthly humanoids would receive a stellar genetic code, and this would be a weapon in the future for the Dracos to use against the Nibiruans. Genetic manipulation began at that moment, and the creation of the space destined for this people, who would reach what is now the Euphrates River, in Iraq. They gave this place the name of Creation Gardens, a laboratory on Earth itself, which would have from now on a completely manipulated race. The planet had never received so many ships as at that time, creating cities and great architectural projects in locations in this region that we still find standing today in inhospitable places, but which were once true gardens of immeasurable beauty. As the project became more and more ambitious, some Nibiruans became attached to their creations and began to manifest their own DNA in them, thus introducing other genetic codes into the structures of this Earth people. But what the Greys and Reptilians needed was just a process of breaking down and destroying the nanotechnology that kept them from continuing to perpetuate themselves. Many agreements were brought up, but they ended up accepting the directions that were established by the Nibiruans. That will be another subject that I will reveal later. At this moment in Earth's history, the first interventions in the increase in human capacities took place. Due to the law of the planet itself, some beings began to reincarnate in the bodies of this Earth. Some as prisoners, others who were deceived and betrayed. When mixing with humans, those who awakened the least consciential and mediumistic capacity became kings and created their kingdoms according to those above who manipulated them, and were taken as the gods who came from the heavens. From then on, what we know until today, an underdeveloped humanity, enslaving their own earthlings brothers, and without realizing that they are being used and serving to this day as laboratory rats for a sinister agenda of the Greys, Reptilians, and Dracos. The Nibiruans left humans with an enhanced genetic mutation, some genetic information from different races has been introduced into the Earthlings' DNA, some codes that are in suspension, and that some insist saying it's junk DNA, but at a given moment in the history of humanity, they will be activated, according to what is happening in the world, awakening of the collective conscience. The entire Senate of Hercolubus decided that they would not comply with the agenda in the project of helping the Greys, Reptilians, and the Dracos, as they discovered the macabre plan of the Principality of Dracos, that as soon as they managed to solve their situation, they would use technology to corrupt and manipulate the children of Nibiru. Then, using the wide communication technology of the entire universe, multiverses, and dimensionality, also known as the cosmic web, the Nibiruans sent to all locations in outer space the information of the sinister agenda that was taking place, and that if any group put itself in the position of assisting the Greys, Reptilians, and Dracos, they would fall victim to a control scheme. The Dracos tried to outwit other builder races and geneticists, but everyone already knew that none of them could be trusted. No one responded to the Dracos' request for help, even if there was the greatest possible exchange of technology, as they knew that this group would always be articulating something to overcome everyone, even those who tried to help and correct the error that they themselves created, and that led to them to the situation they were experiencing for thousands of years. Leon informed that until the moment of our timeline, the Dracos, the Greys, short and tall, and the Reptilians are in this endeavor, abducting humans since the beginning of human history, doing all kinds of barbarism, leading humans to sacrifice humans in honor of them, who presented themselves and still present themselves as gods to a select group of humans who in some way were the ones who carried a greater portion of their DNA active in their human experiences. These became the selected and powerful groups in the physicality that we know as deep state, and from that moment, the most powerful families emerged who controlled clans, tribes, territories, and became kings, queens, and priests, creating pantheons with their gods. But this group of humans knew they had to keep their blood pure. The Greys and Reptilians spoke to them in dreams and abductions, giving them guidelines and forcing them to procreate within their own family group so as not to lose the mark and mutation that overlapped other humans. Thus, during the abduction trance, they were inducing in this special group of humans the creation of cults and political control in the polis that emerged. The Dracos did all of this under the rule of the nano-consciousness in their system, or the so-called AI God. Leon told me, "Look at your history and you will understand who these chosen humans were, who dressed in the clothes of kings, queens, and priests, who are still in power controlling others." Until the present day, some humans are induced to place themselves as superior to others. They choose men and women who have the magnetic ability to gather crowds, creating idols that are puppets of families that have power and financial control within a society that needs a leader, causing the majority to no longer have faith and disconnect from what they really are, forgetting that each one is part of the one infinite creator. In this process of idolatry, they become easy guinea pigs for the sinister project, and like meek lambs, they surrender to sacrifice, giving their energies to the Draco network and consequently to the AI God. These nefarious beings are messing with the Earth's timeline, and in this sick process, they manifest in human consciousness their harm and create hybrids that are used negatively for a project to continue their race, and also using them as energy foods, plasma consumption, and even human flesh. The agenda is premeditated, and Leon informed that there is complicity from some governments and even religious sects involved for a long time, created a long time ago by these dominating beings. The idea is to manifest a control, and at a given moment, they first dominated the mind and the communication technology network, and therefore, the humans, creating religions, philosophical thoughts, in order to end the faith in itself, separating into territories, and creating social, cultural, and religious apartheid, generating wars and thus, controlling an entire system through panic, fear, pain, to produce energies that will serve as food. With this, they manage to contaminate the neural network and the spiritual bodies of those involved. All energy generated by any potentiated emotion, such as panic or euphoria, is food for Dracos and Reptilians, giving them strength and pleasure, like a drug. This, in addition to increasing their potential, takes the entire structure of consciousness from emotional control, encapsulating fractals within their spectral cages, where they become batteries, taking them to a type of holographic chamber, which can keep them trapped throughout an eternity. The spirit remains as if in suspension, imposed by itself, because it believes that it is living in a world with a God who loves and punishes at the same time, where there is a heaven and a hell, or any other dogmatic mental creation. To be continued.